So if you're even remotely interested in FPV freestyle, just like me, then you've probably heard of a style of flying called Juicy Sbang Sbang, or just Sbang for short. Now, this is a style that's pretty polarizing in FPV freestyle. It seems you either love it or hate it. A lot of the haters claim that it's just erratic stick banging, there's no real skill involved, whereas the fans claim that this is one of the hardest styles to master in FPV freestyle. Now, whatever camp you're in, it doesn't really matter. You can't deny that the hype surrounding Sbang, which was big time a few years ago, has died down massively, and there aren't a huge amount of active Sbang pilots today. So, what happened to Sbang? Is it an easy style to replicate, or is it extremely difficult? And where did it even come from in the first place? I'm going to be answering all this and more in today's style analysis. So in order to understand Sbang, we must go back in time for a brief history of the Juicy style. So sometime around 2016, there was a young pilot, which you might have heard of, Johnny FPV. And it was him and Wild Willie who started to develop a unique style of flying freestyle, which involved combinations of snappy fast movements mixed with some incredibly smooth flying. And if we look back on some of Johnny's videos, you can really see the unique style that he was developing. Just so smooth, no minor corrections, and he was often compared to an artist rather than just a drone pilot. And even today, if you look back on his flights from like 2016, 2017, they still stand up to the best in the game. So if you fast forward a year or two, you know, Johnny FPV may have stopped flying freestyle. I think his last freestyle video was 2018. But that didn't mean that the Juicy style died out, because there were other pilots who were taking this style and trying to push it to the next level. Two Swiss pilots in particular, Alexander and Blackbird FPV, were looking to further evolve this classic Juicy style. And they wanted to come with a more aggressive approach to the Juicy style. And they coined this new style that they were kind of developing and creating, hard juice. Now, if we fast forward to 2020, there was a pilot in France by the name of Farouk FPV, and he was developing his own style. Inspired by those who came before him, he added an even more aggressive approach to the Juicy styles that had come before. He worked to push Juicy freestyle even further, and this is where Sbang was birthed. So how did it get its name? Well, contrary to popular belief, it's not named after stick bang or stick banging. The word Sbang is actually an onomatopoeia, and Farouk used to shout it whilst he was flying. So when he wanted to go out and fly with other pilots, they would say, "Let's go and Sbang today." So eventually, when he wanted to put a name to this style of flying, he called it Juicy Sbang Sbang, which was a reference to all those juicy styles that came before. And personally, I really love that classic Juicy style. I'm a huge fan of Johnny FPV. I used to binge his videos all the time. But Sbang is just on another level. It's like if the classic Juicy style snorted a mountain of cocaine. It's just way more frantic, a lot less chill. And typically, if you want to be a Sbang pilot, it requires having high rates, usually with a particular curve. You've got to have high KV motors, high performance lipos, usually lower pitch props, I think. And your overall setup can't be too light because you need that momentum to fling you through all those juicy maneuvers and carry that weight. Oh yeah, and of course, last but not least, it should always be done without stabilization, #no stab. So, what exactly is Sbang, and how could you accurately describe it? And whilst I get into that, let's watch some clips of one of the top Sbang pilots, Casti FPV. So if I had to describe Sbang, I would say that it's a style that mixes extremely fast and coordinated flips and rolls, mixed in with slow and concise yaw movements. It's most commonly done in open fields or open air environments. An effective Sbang pilot has to know how to mix those fast movements with the slow ones. They must be able to lock the horizon with each yaw movement and must fly with as few minor corrections as possible. When executed well, just like you're seeing on screen here, this gives a feeling of speed ramping but in real time, with the added bonus of appearing to manipulate gravity and basically doing things with a drone that almost look and feel impossible. Absolutely crazy, right? So is it just uncoordinated chaos, or is there some method in the madness and it's truly one of the most difficult skills to master in FPV? So in order to decide, we're going to analyse some clips together from my personal favourite pilot in Sbang, Marius FPV. So we're going to watch 2 clips of his. They're about 2 years apart, I think, and he's doing similar combos and moves or tricks in both. And you're going to see, I'm not going to say which one's which, and you're going to see which one you prefer. So let's roll the first clip. You got that? Okay, here's the second clip. Alright, so it's pretty quick, but which one did you prefer? Okay, and before you decide, I'm just going to run them one more time so you can make your decision. You know, which one is more exciting and engaging to watch? Which one would you consider better? So here we go again. So if you said video 2, then I wholeheartedly agree with you, and there's a few reasons why, which I'm going to get into in a minute. But first, let's do the same thing, but this time with Farouk. So you tell me, out of these 2 clips, which one do you prefer? Alright, that's video 1, now let's watch video 2. So, which one did you prefer? Video 1, right? Hey, great minds think alike. But why is it that we prefer these 2 videos over the other 2? And what is it exactly that makes them better? And after watching a ton of Sbang videos, I think that I've got it down to 3 main things. And I think that if you can master these 3 things, that you too will be able to become an excellent Sbang pilot. So what are these magical 3 things? Well, the first thing is speed. Then we have execution, and thirdly, proximity. So in those first videos that we watched, video 2 was clearly a lot faster. The speed at which he is not only flying, but also executing the moves is way faster. And speaking of execution, his execution of those moves, particularly at that speed, is flawless, no minor corrections. And lastly, the second video is way closer to the ground. Proximity equals risk, and he's risking a lot here in the execution of this combo. So when you combine these 3 points, the speed, the execution and the proximity, it just makes for a way better Sbang video. It's way more fun and engaging to watch. And the same could be said for the Farouk clips. The first video is way better. His moves are executed with greater precision, and the proximity involved adds to the levels of excitement. So what about all those pilots out there who say that Sbang is nonsense? That it's just erratic stick banging and there's no skill involved at all? Well, that might actually be true if you're watching a bad pilot, but if you're watching a good one, how is it possible that they are always able to lock that horizon perfectly on both inverted and non-inverted yaws? How are they able to roll and flip at such speeds so close to the ground and still keep their orientation without crashing? How are they able to lock objects in place as they track them whilst inverted? How are they able to rewind so perfectly? And how is it possible to fly with so few minor corrections, being smooth whilst fast and aggressive all at the same time? This, my friends, is definitely not nonsense, and there is plenty of skill involved. They don't even need a gap to fly through to keep you or themselves entertained. And I would say that this isn't just any old freestyle flying. I would say that when executed well at the top level, this is an art. And when it comes to art, you're always going to get haters. And of course, there are always going to be people who just don't understand it. So with so few of the top Sbang pilots, how is it possible that you can also reach the top level? Well, I'll tell you how. It's pretty simple. The simulator. Now, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, but Sbang pilots typically have thousands of hours of practice in the simulator. To perfect a style of flying that has only been mastered by a handful of pilots takes practice, lots of practice. And whilst many of the movements may seem frantic and sporadic to the untrained eye, you know, I can assure you that every trick and combo you watch them do in a video, in real life, has been practiced hundreds, even thousands of times over and over in the simulator. This is not random. These are completely calculated and, when done well, perfectly executed moves. Moves that are the result of nothing other than time, dedication, and most importantly, passion. And a passion that seems to sadly be dying out. So, is Sbang dying out? And if so, why is this? So whilst Sbang is obviously not dead, there are still pilots flying that style. It's definitely not thriving. So why is this? So for me, I think the answer is pretty simple. It's too difficult. There have only been a handful of pilots, in my opinion anyway, who have truly mastered the art of Sbang. And many of them have quit or moved on to other things. Maybe they got burned out from flying that style, you know, pushing so hard in such a short period of time, or maybe they just didn't find the inspiration anymore to keep flying. I think there's one other reason as well that it can be attributed to, and that is trends. So when Sbang first came about, it was new and it was exciting, and so everyone wanted to give it a go because it was fresh. But now with less active Sbang pilots, you don't see it so much anymore. It's not inspiring anyone to really take up Sbang because they're not seeing anything new. And at the moment it seems like the trend has moved towards tricks and combos, something that I also love to do. And so I think the reason why a lot of people are flying this style as opposed to trying to Sbang is because the payoff is way quicker. Learning a trick like the Matty flip or the trippy spin, for example, is way easier, in my opinion, than learning to be a great Sbang pilot. And so this goes back to my original point, which was it's just too difficult. The level of freestyle in recent years has honestly been getting better and better and better, and people are doing new tricks and new things with drones that have never been done before. But I would say that style is still often neglected, and whilst Sbang contains plenty of tricks, it's all about the style, you know, style is king. And so if you're a Sbang pilot and you don't have style, then you got nothing. Now personally, you may not know, but my style is also heavily influenced by the great Sbang pilots. And it saddens me that this style is kind of fading into obscurity. But for many, it's just way too frantic and unwatchable. It's definitely a niche, but in my opinion, I think it's just pure art. So what's next for this dying art? I did think at one point that the next evolution of FPV was going to be Sbang mixed with other styles. For example, Sbando, which is a term that was coined possibly by Marius, and you can see here in his Sbando freestyle, which is a great example of this, where they're basically doing Sbang in a bando. And in my opinion, this would be a great way to level up Sbang by combining it with different styles. I genuinely think that this could be a style that combines the best of everything. But for now, no one has really been pushing that style of flying. Who knows what the future holds? Maybe Sbang will make a comeback, maybe it will evolve into something new, maybe there will be a new style of juicy flying just around the corner. And on that subject, I just want to give a huge shout out to Forv, one of my favourite pilots, because I've been watching him and he does fly that Sbang style, but he also combines it with tricks like Matty flips and trippy spins. And I think that this hybrid style could be a great evolution for Sbang, or just something completely different altogether, and will hopefully inspire a whole new generation of Sbang pilots. But for now, if you want to get some inspiration from some of the juicy pilots that I've spoken about, then I would recommend that you check out guys like Marius, Farouk, Casti, Blackbird, Forv, Digi, Robin, Roy, and of course I can't forget the man himself, the godfather of Juice, Johnny FPV. Now they are all legends, and it's a shame that I haven't personally seen anyone pop up in the last year or two who's had quite the same impact on the scene as many of those juicy pioneers. Maybe I'm missing someone, maybe you can comment down below, someone that I haven't seen fly that is equally as good as them, flying at the top level, Juicy style, particularly Sbang. Until the next great Sbang revolution or Juicy revolution, I'm going to keep watching those old videos of Marius and Casti, just like I used to binge watch those videos of Johnny FPV. So, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.